She's not what you'd expect. She's tough and feisty, but gentle and tender. She makes millions and gives millions to the poor. She cries, she laughs, she teaches, she comforts. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show, the show that challenges you to be better. Here every single day we bring you information, strategies, and even just plain old content to be able to help you shape what you feel your successful life should look like. Success is different for everybody, friend. It really, really is. And I'm a big believer in your success equation. Your definition has got to include your family, has to include your kids, yes, your finances, and yes, whatever your career is. And this is why we are so committed, all of us here at DaniJohnson.com, this whole team that puts on this entire program, whether you're watching this on the UAN network, or you're watching it on YouTube, or listening to it on the Truth Network, or listening it on, which is a radio, or you're listening to the app, the DaniJohnson.com app. Whatever way it is that you are listening to today, we hope that you are blessed by today's content. We're going to actually shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about success with your kids, and specifically about homeschooling. Here's why. I have to celebrate something with you. Yeah, I graduated. Yep, I did. I graduated. Now you're probably going, what are you talking about, Dani? No, I graduated. I have a big announcement. This is huge for me. I just finished homeschooling my 5th child. All 5 of the kids are done and graduated with their basic high school education. Where's the cheering section? We already had his graduation party. In fact, he's been out of school for a while now. And wow, how this feels to go, wow, I made it. And then also looking back, because I started homeschooling my kids 13 years ago. Christina was the first, actually Erica was the first to be homeschooled. She was in the 5th grade, and she had come to me and just said, Mom, I want to be homeschooled. I want to be homeschooled. She actually started asking for it when she was in the 4th grade. So she had to be like 10 years old. She's now 24 years old. And so anyway, she was the first one to start asking. She went to a tiny little private school up in the mountains where we lived in California, and I thought it was a good school, but she just really had this burden that she wanted to be homeschooled. And I was like, no, I didn't think I could do it. I absolutely knew that I wasn't smart enough. I knew I didn't have the patience for it. I could teach adults because that's what I did professionally. I could teach adults. Adults seemed to me easier at the time, but trying to teach my 10-year-old, I was already confused by her homework. I can't imagine having to be the one responsible for her entire education. Well, long story short, here it was. I'm sitting there reading my Bible in the morning, which is what I do and been doing for like 2 decades. And I went to go pray, and I happened to read the story about Noah, and I just went, wow, look at the details that God gave Noah. Like, if Noah had not paid attention to all those tiny little finite details, none of us would be alive today. We'd all would have drowned, right? So I remember just asking God, like, God, you gave Noah like this amazing content. And even Moses, how you gave Moses all of the laws in which we still live under today, those details. I want to hear from you those kinds of details. And I heard a voice say to me, I do. You just don't listen. I was like, what? And I began to weep. So then I get up, I get ready for church, and we head to church. And during the time where there was music playing and everyone's singing, and I mean, I was just kind of lost in the music. I'm one of those weirdos. I just get lost in the music, and I just love loving on my God. Yeah. Anyway, I heard the voice say, you will homeschool Erica. And right away I'm like, have you ever done that? You're going to homeschool Erica. And right away I'm like, devil, you go back to hell where you belong. Don't you know I'm in church right now? I'm worshiping my God. And he says, this is God, and you will homeschool Erica. And I just started weeping. I buried my hands in my face, because have you ever had something in your life that you just knew you couldn't do? Yeah. We all have, right? So here, I had already become a millionaire by the time I was 23. I'd made millions and millions of dollars from 23 to 30. And then here, like, those are big accomplishments, right? Yeah. Bought the $1 million homes and been married and had 5 children and, did all these things. And wow. And I'd spoken before thousands and thousands and thousands of people for over a decade, right? I'd been in business at that point for more than a decade. And here I'm like, I can't homeschool. Here I'm thinking, there's just no way. That mountain's too big. That's like too hard. I think I'll end up like hurting somebody. I'll hurt myself and I'll hurt my child. I don't think it's a good idea. And I think the main thing was I thought I would screw her up somehow, that I just, my mind could understand, hard concepts for business. And I could handle tough problems with adults, with helping to advise them as a business consultant and as an author. I could solve those kinds of things, but there was just no way I could solve fourth grade. There's just no way. I don't know how we get there, right? We have confidence in these other areas, and then bam, we get afraid in something that seems so trivial and so simple. Well, I obeyed the voice. At the end of the day, that's always what I have to do. When I know that he is talking to me and he is guiding me, even through a fear, that he will guide you through a fear. I was guided through a fear. I was guided through all of my excuses and all the opposition that I was throwing up, saying there's just no way. What about the time? What do I do with the other kids? So we did. We started right away, and I found something that was a really simple thing. It was wasn't a charter school, but it was kind of a co-op of parents that, some of them had a teaching background. They picked the curriculum. 2 days a week, the kids showed up to this. Actually, I think it was like a church. They showed up to a meeting place, and some of these parents who were professionally trained, and some of them were not, kind of guided the kids during those 2 days a week, and they took care of all the correcting of the papers. So this was like a really easier transition for me to have gone like cold turkey, we're home, and figure out curriculum and all that. I absolutely couldn't have done that, but I feel like that was a gift. So we didn't stop. For the next 13 years, we continued, and we just finished this year, and I'm happy to say that all 5 of the kids have been homeschooled at some point in their lives. Erica was homeschooled more than all of them. Actually, no, and I think Micah has been. Micah did almost all of his high school years in homeschool and almost junior high as well. Regardless, they all graduated a year ahead of their class. They all graduated with incredible grade point averages. In fact, Micah, our youngest, he's 16. He just graduated with a 4.0. And he's had a customized education, as all of them, except for Christina. Christina did her junior and senior year in the same year. It was really a part of the school system. Hers was not as customized, but it was after she graduated. And even before, actually, because of First Steps to Success. We brought our children through our business seminars that teach about money and business and relationships. So anyway, we want to know from you, what are your thoughts on homeschool? Have you homeschooled? Do you have any tips for those who are watching? Because this is a very popular thing that has risen up, and then there's a lot of controversy about it from a lot of different places, even states that are trying to make it illegal, even though the studies prove that homeschool kids actually test higher and better in colleges, and they become more successful. So studies have proven all this, and yet there's still always those people, well, what about socialization? Same questions I had. My kids are perfectly socialized. Lord have mercy. There's a cool quote that one of our coworkers found, Mary. Listen to this. There's no school equal to a decent home, and no teacher equal to a virtuous parent. Do you agree with that statement? I'd have to tell you that I do. That was by Mahatma Gandhi, incredible man who did some amazing things for the land of India as well as abroad. His influence has been a worldwide influence, certainly an influence in my life as well, just from his quotes and learning about his story. It built my faith by far. Anyway, so I want to talk to you about customized education. I want us to discuss different tips and ways that maybe we've done it that can help others who are thinking about doing it, as well as what the pitfalls are, as well as what the successes are. And how does that equate to your success? Let's say you don't have kids, your kids are in school, and it really doesn't matter to you. Success has a formula, okay? So every day that we talk to you, we're always revealing what that formula is to you, because to succeed as a homeschool parent, to succeed as a parent, takes the same exact things, same exact ingredients, if you will, to succeed in finance, to succeed in business or in your career, or to succeed in your marriage. So it's the same formula. That formula is going to be revealed today, and we're going to learn how to be more successful today. So we're going to go to the phones. We've got some people that responded to a Facebook post. And by the way, if you haven't come over and joined us on Facebook, do that. We have several hundreds of thousands of people that are joining us on Facebook each and every day. We'd love to see you there. Come over to an incredible community who is encouraging each other, or paying off debt. They're helping the poor. They are helping to raise their kids to be successful. They're working on their marriages. They're working on themselves. It's just all around just awesome people. You need to meet these people. So come on over to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you can find us at Dani Johnson Live. So first, we got Paul Gerber from Indiana. Paul, welcome to the show. Tell us your thoughts about homeschool.
Thank you, Dani. It's a pleasure to be here. before I start out, there's a statistic that I heard a couple of years ago that is pretty frightening. As a 4-year-old child, we have this ability that is known as divergent thinking, which allows us to go into multiple different directions to get information to pull into a singular project and make it all come together.
Oh, if we could only be 4 again.
And by the time we're 8 years old, we have 60% of that ability schooled out of us.
Wow.
Now, I went to a parochial school, a small school with 35 to 50 students, one-room schoolhouse. And that's how we started with our children when our first one started going to school.
Wow.
Well, unfortunately, the small parochial schools are burdened with the same political BS that the public school system is burdened with, albeit not as bad maybe, but in the same direction.
Right.
And
I didn't even know, Paul, that those schools existed anymore. I had no idea. It has to be in small towns.
I live in an area where there's actually several hundred of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what we noticed, this is what I've noticed over the years from the time I went to school until my children started going to school, is that, learning is best done by repetition, right?
Yeah.
So you practice your multiplication tables over and over and
For
over
12
and over
years.
again until you're tired of it, so you know it internally forever.
Yep.
Well, today, the curriculums have come up with this style of teaching something for a little bit until they've kind of caught on to it, and bam, they're on to the next thing. And they keep hopping around, and that's very confusing for a child. So my wife, Carol, and I felt like it's more critical for them to learn what they're learning and do well with it and have some success at an early age. So we just pulled them out of school.
Wow.
And there was a whole lot of politics that we didn't really need either. So we just pulled them out. We brought them home, and we shopped around for, we don't have a set curriculum. We choose where we buy what book, and we choose what we teach our children out of the book. In other words, if it's something that is just pie in the sky and that they're not going to use in real life,
exactly,
we'll just skip right over it. I mean, we're the teacher, I'm the principal, my wife's the teacher, we're the whole deal, okay? So we make the rules.
Yep.
And as a king of the domain, I felt very strongly, and I still feel this way, that it is my responsibility to guard
the mind of your children. Yes.
Our children are
Yes, I completely agree. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Coming up next, Paul shares how he and his wife custom-tailored a homeschool curriculum to prepare their children for success. Stay right here for more of The Dani Johnson Show.
Do you dream about feeling more confident, more beautiful, more powerful? But instead, you're that girl that never learned to do their makeup, and now you feel lost in a sea of YouTube makeup tutorials. Or you're that new mom that can't get enough sleep at night and just wants to feel pretty again. Or the busy professional that wants to magnetize brand new clients and get more respect in the office. From the boardroom to the bedroom, xmhbeauty.com will help you. Our company has a proven track record of making beauty available on any budget, from celebrities to girls just like you and me. Our live classes, step-by-step tutorials, and insider secrets will have you standing out from the crowd. Go to xmhbeauty.com/Dani today to get your free gift from us. That's xmhbeauty.com/DANI.
Imagine living in a decrepit, unsafe hovel made of waste material on top of old mining tunnels that could explode and sink your home at any moment. Imagine no water to drink, no safe place to raise your children, no food for your starving baby. Imagine that your kids can't learn to read because they have to work to support the family instead of going to school. Could you imagine living in that kind of fear and hopelessness? This is exactly what families are dealing with in the poverty-stricken village of Santa Pancha, Nicaragua. These families can barely meet their basic food, water, and housing needs. We are transforming that village. Be a part of this miracle. I want you to go to the website now and learn how you can help. Go to kingsransom.org and click on Santa Pancha. There you can join with other warriors against poverty and help bring a miraculous transformation to Santa Pancha. That's kingsransom.org, kingsransom.org.
If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do with your life? Discover your own answer. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Stress, pressure, crazy schedules, routines that are they really going to work? This is what our kids are going through right now with our current school system, as well as the families. You know, we've homeschooled our kids for 13 years. We just graduated baby number 5. All 5 of our kids graduated as homeschool students. All 5 graduated a year and ahead of their class. Micah's graduated a year and a half ahead of his class. These kids have been more well-rounded, better socialized, with much more wisdom than some of the kids that went to school with at some point in their career, if they were in an actual school. And what we noticed is their maturity level. Their maturity level was far higher than the kids that were in normal schools. And so we're talking about homeschooling today. We're talking about how to make it successful and whether or not it's a good choice for you. We found it was a great choice for us because of the freedom as well as having dominion over what was going into our kids' heads versus the government deciding what our kids would learn. We know what our kids need. We all know because we all live life. And so we chose a different, let's say a compilation of different curriculums that we would use throughout their school years. We got Paul Graber on the phone. He and his wife also have done the same thing, and they're talking about the success of their kids and what has happened. So, Paul, I love the fact that you as a father and as a husband, that you saw, as you said, the king of the home, that you felt it was very important to guard what type of education went into your kids. There's not a lot of fathers who think like that. I really commend you for taking on that kind of responsibility with your kids and being able to customize it. So give me one thing that you did as a father and as your wife that you guys customized the education that your kids were getting. And are your kids gone already, or are they still being homeschooled?
We're in the middle of it. We've got 4 children out of school. We've got 3 in school, and another 2 that haven't started yet. We've got 9 total.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome, dude. Busy family.
It's a household sometimes, but it's a pleasure.
Okay, so 9 kids. Like some people go, I don't know how to handle all the other kids while the other one's in school. So 4 have graduated, 4 are in, 2, is that what no, 3 are in, 2 haven't started school yet. So what is one thing that you customized the education? What was one thing that you gave your kids through homeschooling that the school system could not give the kids?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us has been that, we use certain books for math. We use, Christian-based, but even those have been polluted. So we've been able to pull, my wife does most of the teaching, but she calls on me when she gets in a tough spot, kind of, and I want her to. I absolutely want her to. Mm-hmm. And then if there's, she'll be frustrated because it's like, why are we even teaching this? Mm-hmm. And I just look at it and I tell her, look, we aren't. We're going to pass this one over. We're going to move on.
Wow.
Or we're going to go back to some basics that they're actually going to use, and we're just going to have some practice drill.
Yeah.
But we're not going to waste time on this because this is absolute garbage.
Yeah.
We don't need it.
Yep. I found the same to be true, honestly. I really have. I found that most of what I learned in school didn't get used. I wish I could go back and hug my typing teacher. I would like to go find all of my math teachers because these are things I use. But I didn't use geometry. I didn't use geometry ever. Like, not ever. Algebra?
Right.
Algebra sets you up for business. It really does. It's like figuring out solutions to problems that you can't really identify. Like, you know what I mean? The algebra, to me, definitely trained my brain for business, and I think it trains everybody's brain for business. But there's just so much that is just a complete waste of time. Science. Why did I have to learn science for 12 years? I'm not a scientist. I'm not a botanist. I'm not a biologist. I don't remember any of what I learned with science. I'm not saying kids shouldn't learn it, but should we have it 12 years in a row? I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway, I love how we can customize an education for our kids based on what their strengths are, based on what they're actually going to use, and no one knows better what a kid is going to use than the parents who are actually living. We live in a world, we have jobs, or we have businesses, we deal with people. Look at that. How much of the school career that our kids have teach them anything about relationships? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They learn how to bully or be bullied. They learn how to be pompous and egotistical and filled with pride and arrogant, or they learn how to crawl into a hole and want to die and disappear. It is a pathetic system that is not setting the kids up, even financially. 14,000 hours of school that I had from kindergarten to 12th grade, and 14,000 hours, I didn't have a single class about money, not investing, not about business, not even the history of business of our country. That is a business country, not a single class on any of those things. Not a single class on how to manage finances, become an investor, none of that stuff. Not a class on relationships. But 14,000 hours of school, I did have several classes on a dangling participle. Can you remember what that is? This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more after this.
In your face and in your corner. You've never had a coach like this before. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
I just heard this amazing story. One of our clients had written us telling us that they had used job domination and unlimited success and has absolutely exploded their career. He said, Dani, I don't know where I'd be today without job domination and unlimited success. Listen, do you want more recognition from your coworkers? Do you want to be recommended to people all over the world? Do you want to be somebody that is highly sought after? Listen, if you're in a dead-end place where this gentleman found himself, but then learned new strategies and changed everything in his work life, and obviously this has resulted in higher bonuses and pay raises. You're next. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Job Domination right now. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Job domination. That's what you need. It's time for you to dominate the job market and break through the rut that you're in.
My name is Andris and I'm from Latvia. Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, I was a struggling English teacher back home. I had a language school that I started when I was 21 and had grown it to be pretty okay in my city. But at the same time, I had acquired a debt of $60,000. In a matter of 8 to 9 months, I got rid of my debt. And by 2011, we had our first $1 million year. This has been amazing. We grew our school from about 100 students to 2,000 students, and I can only highly recommend for you to come to the next event and be part of this community and learn the tools that will help you to succeed.
Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, my family and I were hemorrhaging under the pressures of debt. Since attending First Steps to Success in January of 2014, my family and I have paid off over $147,000 in 19 months. We're completely consumer debt free. We have restored relationships, and our business is growing at a rate of 15% at every event. Your next step is to sign up for the next First Steps to Success and start creating your own story.
My name is Jeff Conyers, and prior to First Steps to Success, I was a struggling business owner. I had discovered that my business account went negative $5,000, and I realized that I did not have a business plan and I needed to do something. Fast forward to 1 year after, I have now created, just by implementing the tools at First Steps to Success, over $50,000, created another business, improved my personal and business relationships. Man, it's like the story is forever changing, and it just gets better and better. I don't know about you or what you're going through, but I would highly recommend getting to First Steps to Success.
Prior to plugging into First Steps to Success, we were drowning under a mountain of debt. We were heading to divorce court. We had failing businesses and toxic relationships. Since plugging into First Steps to Success, our marriage has been restored. We have paid off over $56,000 in 11 months. We've helped our community pay off over $300,000 in 14 months. My business has grown in over 600% in 4 months. And for the first time, I can say I'm just loving life. I have great relationships. So if you are fine where you are, then this event is not for you. But if you're ready to reach your goal and to change your life, then I highly recommend that you get registered for the next event.
Hi, my name is Jill Kearns. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. Prior to coming to First Steps to Success, my husband and I were struggling financially and were hurting in our relationship a lot. We needed more time together, and we just were struggling with that because of the finances. And so since plugging in, we've actually paid off over $280,000 in debt. We're completely debt-free, and more than anything else, the look on my husband's face of relief and excitement about where our future lies, and the traveling and the fun, enjoyable times that we'll get to spend together as a family is totally worth it. So if you want to have better relationships with your significant other, your children, if you have a desire to be completely debt-free and released from that bondage for whatever reason, whatever the burdens are, your next step is to get to First Steps to Success right now.
So prior to getting started to DaniJohnson.com, I was a college dropout. I was working a bottom of the barrel type job. I started plugging into her training. I've skyrocketed through the ranks of corporate America. I've tripled my income in the last 5 years. That's all fine and dandy, but it wasn't, there's a part of me that had a part missing. So I ended up using Dani's prospecting skills, and I ended up meeting the love of my life. Since then, we've paid off $32,000 of debt since October 2014. So get here now. This is the greatest thing ever. You have to see this. The skills and strategies Dani teaches are unbelievable. They totally took someone like me with no education and helped me just like multiply my efforts. So you need to be here.
And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
Homeschooling is totally old-fashioned. Not only that, your kids are not going to know how to talk to other people. Can you believe that people have seriously said those things? Oh my gosh. Your kids are not, if you homeschool your kids, they're not going to have good social skills. Really? That's interesting. So I don't know about you, but homeschool kids don't sit in a closet all day doing their work and never talk to another human. Especially in our case, we had 5 kids. My daughter has 6 kids. She's homeschooling her 6 kids, manages to do it in just a couple of hours. Plus, she runs a business. She's making a 6-figure income, working part-time, and homeschooling her children and taking care of her own home and traveling all over the world, actually, several times a year because of the freedom of homeschooling. It took a while for me to like get it through her head about the option of homeschooling. It did, but the stress of the 7 a.m. rise, the stress of the lunches that had to be made, the stress of all the extra homework, the stress of going here and there and all of this and that. And her first week of homeschool, she called me, she says, "Mom, I am so glad I'm doing this. My gosh, all of our stress has massively decreased. All of our stress has completely decreased. We all are loving this." And here it's been, I don't know, 5-6 months? No, yeah, 6 months. And they're loving it. The kids have less stress. There's less pressure on them. We've got a 3- and 4-year-old that's learning also along with the other ones that are up to a 10-year-old. It's incredible what can happen to your lifestyle when you make the choice to homeschool. I'm not saying you have to. It's not going to be for everybody. But if it is something you're interested in, something you want to do, today's the day to learn about it. We've got Kim Hamby from South Carolina. Welcome to the show. What have you got to say about homeschooling?
Hey, Dani. I just want to thank you so much for allowing me to be on the show.
Thanks for joining us.
And I prayed about exactly what the Lord would want me to say. And I was like you. I felt very unequipped to do this, but the Lord called me to do it.
How do you know? How do you know that He called you to it?
Well, for me, my kids kept getting sick. I had one in kindergarten and one in 3rd grade. And when I say sick, they were very sick for a big part of the year. Even my 3rd grader ended up with mono. We had her tonsils and adenoids taken out. It was just constant. So she was missing a lot of school. But during that time, like the Lord kept bringing people to me that homeschooled. Wow. So it was like that repeated message over and over again. Hey, I homeschool and we're successful. And I just kept hearing that through different people. So I felt like that was His sign for Him to, for me to kind of follow in His footsteps. So we did.
Wow.
So what I did is I was with the kindergarten and 3rd grade, and I had bought curriculum that was the same grade level as what they were in public school.
Yep.
And we started on the curriculum, and it was more advanced than where they were at in public school.
Wow.
And I just want to encourage people because it was very hard for us. Some of our days, we were crying. They were crying. I was crying. And
Yeah.
So I was praying, and I was like, Lord, just lead me. I know that this is what you want me to do. Lead me. So you know what we did? We put the curriculum completely aside. And we just learned about God. We learned how to pray to him and what the armor meant and what spiritual warfare was. And he was the God of the universe. And we just kind of turned our whole lives into learning. And I thought that I was failing them that year. So I want everyone to hear that. I thought I was failing my kids. But God, he has blessed that time. And now the kids they're further in their spiritual walk than some adults. Yeah. We prayed for their giftings to be revealed, and my 9-year-old is prophetic. I mean, it is just amazing. My daughter, who's 11, she tried out for the worship team, and she leads worship through her voice for the 6th grade through 12th graders.
It's awesome. Kim, but here's the question. Here's the question that I know people are asking right now. Okay, that's great that they have a strong spiritual life, but are they earthly no good? Can they add? Can they write? Can they read?
That's what I was going to say.
So,
yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. They are just academically, the Lord just kind of blessed that. Like we did the spiritual first kind of for us, and then it's like, I don't know, he just made up all of that time, if that makes any kind of sense. Yeah. They are very well-rounded. I had my daughter take a test. I do that often just to kind of see where they're at. Through Liberty Academy, which is Liberty University.
Yes.
And I was scared. Because, you still kind of battle, am I failing them? Am I doing everything right? Well, for her English, now she was testing for 6th grade, and she actually scored a higher high school level.
Wait, she's in what grade?
She's in 6th grade, and she scored for English a high school level.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just highly, highly encourage everybody to definitely homeschool. I mean, it is just a blessing. The flexibility is there. My kids are very well diversified as far as what they do. She does all-star travel competitive cheerleading and softball, and my son does baseball. They're very well-rounded. Never meet a stranger. And they're coming to see you, Dani. Like they watch War on Debt, and
that's a good financial education.
Yes, he was like, Mom, you bought that coffee. That's 98%.
They're holding you accountable now.
Oh, absolutely. He's
that's
like,
awesome.
that's not okay. And it was when the time changed. I'm like, son, it's really early in the morning. And you know what he said? I bet you Dani Johnson didn't act like a 98%er. I was like, yes, son. He's calculating how much it was, and how, that's going to add so much onto our debt. I mean, it's just,
wow. Wow. So you obviously are customizing education. There's something I got to tell you that I really commend you for. Because a lot of times when we reach a hard place in life, whether in your case, this was a hard place of there were times too where I was crying with my kids and the worst was coming out in me when I started homeschooling. Oh, the level of frustration and feeling stupid. There were so many times I felt stupid. There's something beautiful in feeling stupid. And that is that you got to ask for help. And the one that I asked for help from, same one you asked for help from, and he helped. And what you did that was so perfect is that you put the focus on spiritual. And spiritual is what you were excited about, obviously. And it was something that you would light up when you would talk to your kids about God and teaching them these things. And obviously his spirit was involved with that teaching, and that built the bridge. That was the bond that caused the kids to transition from a teacher in a classroom to you being that teacher and building that trust with your kids as their teacher, as their leader at home. And so that was beautiful. And then to keep that in practice, to keep the spiritual life. And that's one thing that I loved about homeschool is that I could implement spiritual teaching into my kids that who knows what the Bible teacher was teaching my kids at a private Christian school. Obviously, my kids have never been to a public school. Actually, one of them had because she wasn't with us for the first 14 years. But Anyway, I made it that God had to be the center of their education and be the focus of the starting of their day. And so when you homeschool, you can do that. And then every math equation, right? Every English assignment, every history assignment, even science, because God created all of these things. This is where I found the excitement to talk about these kinds of things with my kids. So I love that you led spiritually, you gave yourself a break, and then that created that bond, and then bam, now your kids, like you said, the kid in the 6th grade is testing higher in English than high schoolers are, which is awesome. Kim, thank you so much for being an inspiration to so many. We've got Elizabeth Laird from Las Vegas, Nevada. Hi. So what about you? What is your opinion about homeschool?
I love homeschooling. I wish I would have done it when my son was younger, actually. What happened with our school, this has been about 10 years ago, so this is kind of early on. We were lucky enough, a lot of drama at the school. We changed dates, a lot of fighting, bullying, all this kind of stuff. And my niece was pulled out of school. Her mother pulled her out of school and put her in homeschool. And I was like, oh, my God, how am I going to do this? But we found an organized program. And my son was in gifted programs. Then he came home one day and he said, Mom, I'm back in 3rd grade. I cannot do this. Wow. So at the risk of losing them, we all went to the school, and 17 parents, including myself, all pulled our kids out of school on the same day.
Wow.
Now, I was very lucky. There was an organized school program at Helen Hunt High School in New Orleans, which is now, in California, which is now a kindergarten through 12th grade school. But it wasn't when we started. So we went over there and we found out that the teachers in the public school were not even certified, but the teachers at Helen Hunt all had master's degrees, like in gifted children. So we learned a couple of things, and one of them was that in the high school they had 6 classes, a lot of pressure, a lot of drama. In the gifted school, or we called it, they had a syllabus. They met once a week. They were held accountable, just like a college. And they were given 2 very intense subjects at a time, but still the same number of subjects you would teach in a semester. So that was really helpful.
Because that helped the kids focus. That helped them really focus and drill down a topic versus having it sporadic all over the place. We did the same thing. That's what we did with ours.
Exactly what
Yeah. In fact, Micah, how he got through his junior and senior year so fast is he literally did one subject at a time a day. So meaning like he finished his entire year of history inside of 6 weeks. And that's all he focused on was that history. So this way it's repetition, it's learning versus all these breaks and all these different, what information was that? This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Are you qualified to homeschool your own children? You might be surprised at the answer. Stay right here for more of The Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, I'm Dani Johnson. The most common question I get usually are from people who are trying to juggle their life. They've got kids who are involved in all kinds of activities. They've got business or their job, finances, trying to get out of debt, plus all their church activities and all the volunteer activities. And they're pulling their hair out going, how do I juggle this all? Man, I once lived just like that until I learned Time Secrets. Time Secrets showed me how to be able to cut my hours from 100 hours a week that I was working down to 20 hours a week and tripled my income as a direct result with what I learned. Time Secrets also showed me how to get my priorities in order, which healed up my marriage. And I became a mother that I was proud of versus becoming the mother I didn't want to be. And so if you feel like your world is running around in all kinds of different circles, you can fix that. Call 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880 for Time Secrets. But I'm so blessed that I found what is in Grooming the Next Generation for Success. This is a book that is being taught in universities around the world. It's been noted as the best book on parenting that has ever been written. Crazy, if you ask me. But the point is that this thing gets results. Get your copy today, 888-757-8880. Again, that's 888-757-8880. Or go to DaniJohnson.com. That's DANI Johnson.com. Get your copy today.
Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, I was working 60 to 75 hours a week. I was completely stressed out. I was incredibly angry with my husband. We were in over $350,000 worth of debt. By applying the strategies that Dani teaches, in the last 3.5 years, we have paid off $170,000 in debt. We are no longer roommates, and we no longer spend every single cent that we make. We now have made tens of thousands of dollars in passive income in investments. We are on the right track. We're traveling around the world together, and we are building homes for those who really need it. So I don't know about you, but if you want to cut back from 60 to 20 and 30 hours a week, if you want to mend some relationships, if you want to make your life more efficient and a lot more fun, and you want to be the best version of you, I highly recommend that you get registered because your life is about to change.
Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, first steps to success in creating dynasty, my wife and I were really lost. We were struggling in a relationship. We were struggling financially, drowning in debt. Our relationship was really broken. We were in a bad place. We were living in two completely different states and not really honoring each other. Once we got plugged into the community, we noticed a shift in our lives. Most importantly, we came together as a husband and wife. That was the first thing we did. And when we finally came together under the same roof, things started to change. Over the past 3 years, we've been able to pay off over $495,000 in debt. I know in my business, I've had a job created for me that increased my income by 50%. That has actually opened up the door to allow my wife and I to spend more time with each other. So I don't know where you are. I don't know if your relationship is super awesome. I don't know if your job is immaculate. I don't know if you're debt-free. But what I do know is if you're not any one of those things, your next step is to get plugged into DaniJohnson.com, go on the website, get plugged into the community. I promise you, your life will never be the same.
Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, I was a broke college student, drowning in debt, and I felt like the world was crashing all around me, and I had bad relationships. Since plugging into DaniJohnson.com and First Steps to Success, I was able to pay off $6,600 in 4 months. Now I'm able to give 10% of my income to wherever my heart desires. I actually, using the skills that I learned from Dani, I actually landed a job before I graduated college. And I'm able to travel the world. All I know is if you're serious about annihilating your debt, traveling the world, helping people, and having fun doing so, I highly recommend you get registered for the next First Steps to Success. Do it now, don't wait, don't even thinking about it. If you're ready to change your life, just do it.
We went to our first ever First Steps to Success just 10 weeks ago, and it has definitely been life-changing ever since.
We felt like we got hit by a 2x4, but it was the best 2x4 because what we realized is that our priorities were clearly out of line. I had been building a home-based business and had been working 80 to 100 hours, and I realized that that is not my role and that I had actually taken my husband's, and it was that realization that something had to change, and we immediately went home and changed everything. There was no hesitation. We said, you know what, we need to be obedient to God.
And we've implemented the tools day one. We started implementing what Dani taught us, invested in ourselves, invested in our kids, got our priorities in line. We've now actually paid off just not quite $60,000 in debt and looking at a couple more investments here as head of the household.
It's been absolutely incredible. So I just encourage you, if any of this speaks to you, if you're wanting to get out of debt, if you're wanting better communication, if you're wanting to elevate to the higher level of life, get to First Steps to Success and plug into DaniJohnson.com.
This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. I know you've heard that before. That's from the best success book ever written. We're talking about successfully homeschooling your kids. Whether or not that is a choice for you or not is completely up to you. I had every excuse in the book not to homeschool my kids. I had been dyslexic. I was terrible in school myself. I struggled so bad, and I had so much scars from my school upbringing that, man, there was just no way. I just knew I wasn't qualified. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't good enough. And fourth grade math confused me, as well as all their assignments. I mean, their stuff confused me. How in the world could I help my kids succeed through their education? Well, it's been 13 years. I just graduated. So excited. So today we've been having our faithful listeners to the Dani Johnson Show call in and give their 2 cents on homeschooling and their experience. We've heard so many great tips. We've got Elizabeth from Las Vegas on the phone. She actually just shared a tip about the schooling situation they had where they focus on one subject at a time. We did the same thing the last few years of homeschooling when our kids were actually the ones that asked if they could. Like, do I have to do 5 subjects in a day? Can I just like focus on one subject at a time and finish it and get that year's worth of history or that year's worth of science or whatever done quickly? And the answer was yes. And wow, they tested so well. They really absorbed the information. And by the way, there's a curriculum that I found, unfortunately, the last 2 years of our homeschooling career, 3 years, I think. No, it was 2 years. I really highly recommend it. We used, first of all, Switched on Schoolhouse, and that was all on the computer. Meh, I wasn't so crazy about that, and actually neither were they. But Switched on Schoolhouse has an actual printed out version of it, and it's called Life Pack. Oh my goodness, everything's in a workbook. There's 10 workbooks for the entire year's worth of schooling for that particular subject. So the kids, what I found, and they were my 2 sons that did this, they were like burning through it. Not burning in a bad way, meaning like they could see it. Okay, I only have to do 10 of these and I'm completely done with the subject for my junior year or for my sophomore year or whatever year it was that they were in school. And so it was kind of like a goal was presented before them versus like on the computer it was like endless. It seems like it's never going to end. It seems like it's going to go on forever. So I found for our guys that focusing on one subject at a time and burning through it day after day after day after day, again, don't hear me wrong about burning through it. I'm just telling you that the guys are smart. They're super smart. They absorb the information. They got that information instead of having all these crazy subjects being introduced to them. So yeah, it was nice. Anyway, so back to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, thanks for that tip. It was an important one, and I completely agree with it, where they got to focus on one subject or 2 subjects at a time and drill those down and really get the content. What's another tip you have that you feel helped you with homeschooling your son?
The other tip was that we had a couple of dads who were really good in math, and I'm a nurse, but I'm not good at math, okay? So what they would do is we started we'd have a little workshop, or maybe I'd tutor them in science or English or whatever it was, with the group of kids that felt like they couldn't hang with it, just the kids that were in our school. I found after a while the kids began to tutor each other. So that's a great thing.
Yes.
They wouldn't let anybody fall behind. Like, you're going to pass because you can't do math. We're going to teach it to you.
Yeah, and you know what that's leadership, Elizabeth. Those are leadership skills and it's management skills. So here it is, like somebody...
Success stories?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, they're all in their 20s now. Every single kid is working. They've got great families. Some of them have children, including my own. They have beautiful children. They have nice families. We don't have the drama, Dan, that they were having at the school. And they're all smart. They're all in their own little field. My daughter-in-law's a medical coder. My son's in aeronautics. They all did. One of them's an artist, a graphic artist, and doing film and stuff. So they all, they rose to whatever their little niche was. We didn't push them into a mold, like you have to do this or you have to do that. We played on their talent. And that's probably the best thing I got out of it.
Absolutely. And obviously your kids went to college even, so you didn't screw them up.
Some didn't. Some of them went to like, vocational technical type.
Which is awesome.
But they like what they're doing. It's more important than having a PhD and hating every day of your life.
Yes.
Plus, they all graduated in 10th grade. Now, this was the funny thing. And they all made a decision to stay in school. So the community college actually let them take college classes those last
when they were 16 years old. 16 years old taking college classes. That's awesome.
It was great.
Awesome job. And that was a risk.
When they were younger.
Yes, Elizabeth, that was a big risk to do that for all 17 of those parents who took their kids out of school that one day and then started this basic co-op with homeschooling their kids. I think it's awesome. All right, we've got Suzanne from Maryland. Suzanne, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you.
So what about you? What's your experience with homeschool?
Well, I homeschooled both of my kids. I started with my daughter. She was in 5th grade. She had some years in grade school where she was not doing too well because of her speech. We were a military family.
Wow.
So we had been in other school districts.
Yeah, moved around a lot.
But by the time she was in 5th grade, she was being bullied by other kids and just felt like the school was not supporting her. And she was supposed to go to a middle school that was close to the base. And we just felt like if she's not receiving the support here in the grade school, I don't think she's going to receive it in the middle school, which had a lot of issues and problems.
Yeah.
My son had gone there, and he said, I don't want to see her going there.
Wow.
So my husband and I decided to start homeschooling her. So we homeschooled her right up to 12th grade, and my son at that time was in 10th grade, and we did 10th through 12th, and both went on to college and have graduated.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So bullying is a big driver for bringing kids home. And not only that, but what did you watch happen in your daughter to go from that bullying situation? Not only that, but your military family, so you didn't stop moving, right?
Yes.
So the moving continues?
Actually, I saw a little bit of bullying from the teachers. Wow. So in first grade, she would gnaw on her pencils.
Yeah.
She would hide in a closet.
Baby.
In second grade, she had a great teacher. Third grade and fourth grade, she had great teachers because I talked with them, and we had a lot of conferences. And then we moved, and so in fifth grade, it really manifests itself in just being terribly disorganized. And then I would be getting phone calls from the nurse saying, Anna is sick. Can you come and pick her up? She was constantly sick, coming home, crying.
Poor baby.
I'd see her walking home, and she'd be crying, breaking my heart.
Gosh, that's terrible.
And
That's so
said
hard.
to myself, I can't put up with this anymore.
Yeah.
She can't, of course, but I can't put up for it for her.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't have her continue on. She's withdrawing.
Yeah. Wow,
It was a
Mommy,
very
good
sad
job. I'm so very proud of you and your husband both to see that your daughter is suffering and not do this. Well, you know, it's just kids. You know, that kind of stuff just happens. So many parents do that, and they overlook it and, oh, well, she's going to have to learn it one day, versus having that compassion that you had for your kid and to realize that this is too much stress on my child at this age. For the rest of her life, she's going to have to deal with stress. Why do we have to deal with it in the fifth grade, right? Why? And so I'm impressed with you and your husband that you guys chose to bring your kids home, and now they're successful. They've graduated from college. It's amazing. And it is a sacrifice, no question, to homeschool your kid. And there's a lot of work that has to be done more internally in ourselves, honestly, really more internally ourselves. But once you get past that, it's a blessing to see them thrive and flourish, as well as to have much less stress. Oh my gosh. The stress level that will come on your kids by come off of your kids by homeschooling is profound. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more after this.
Don't go away. The next segment might just change your life. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, this is Dani Johnson. Let me ask you something. Do you dream about being more confident, more beautiful, more powerful? Are you that girl who never learned to wear makeup and now you're lost in a sea of YouTube videos? That busy mom who can't get enough sleep and just wants to feel pretty again? Or maybe you're that professional who wants a little more respect in the office. From the boardroom to the bedroom, celebrity makeup artist Xtina Harmsworth from XMH Beauty will help you. Xtina has a track record of making beauty easy on any budget. Her live class is simple, step-by-step professional beauty techniques, and insider secrets will set you apart from the crowd. So don't sit on your dream another minute. Learn from the best. Get your exclusive free gift from Xtina today at xmhbeauty.com/Dani. That's xmhbeauty.com/DANI.
Prior to plugging into First Steps to Success, I was a depressed, hopeless, suicidal drug addict. I had no vision for my life. I absolutely hated people, hated myself. I felt shackled by my debt, and I had toxic relationships. Since plugging in, I've been drug-free for almost 18 months. I paid off nearly $14,000 worth of debt in 14 months. I have completely restored my relationship
relationships with my friends and my family. I have a vision for my life now, and I'm actually live and not exist anymore. So I don't know if you have debt or not, or if your life's going perfectly the way you want it to go. But if not, I highly recommend you get registered today for the next first steps to success.
Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, we were just lost. We had no hope and light at the end of the tunnel, and we were drowning in debt. After coming to First Steps to Success and plugging into DaniJohnson.com, our income has doubled. We have paid off over $76,000 of debt in just 45 months. My husband and my communication skills have just raised us through the roof, and my husband has cut back his hours, making more income. If you want results like these, you better get to First Steps to Success.
I have been plugging into Dani Johnson for the last 8 years, believe it or not. And people say, why so long? Well, because there's a lot to do in life, and it has changed every area of my life. My business has exploded, my spiritual life has been unmatched, and my relationship with my wife and my family has just been fantastic. We've paid off over $200,000 of debt in just 2 years. We're debt-free, and I just could not be happier. But if you want to change any area of your life, whether it's your business, your marriage, your relationship with your kids, your financial situation, or getting out of debt, or your spiritual life, I would tell you, you cannot afford to miss First Steps to Success. It's just been a blessing to me and my family. So I really invite you to just get online and get your ticket to the next First Steps to Success. Thank you very much.
And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
Homeschooling, we don't regret it. We're glad that we did. The freedom, the less stress, the less pressure on our kids, and how well-rounded they have become, as well as successful in what they want to do, is absolutely worth it. Vera Smith joins us from Rust, Texas. Vera, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you.
So you've been homeschooling since 1989, or you started to homeschool in 1989?
We started in 1989, and we homeschooled our youngest son, kindergarten, and our daughter, first grade, and so it's about 14 years.
That is not popular back in 1989. That's amazing.
Well, our youngest son had a moderate amount of hearing loss, and even though we were in a great school district, at that time they had open classroom concept, which means he would have entered kindergarten and been in a big, ginormous room with about 400 students, and the classrooms were in cubicles, like you see office cubicles now. Wow. And our last name is Smith. He would have been at the end, towards the back of the cubicle, and we explained about his
hearing
loss.
Absolutely wasn't going to work.
We could put him in a special ed class, and then he would be in a contained classroom. And said,
oh my God!
You know, if you needed to be in a special ed class, we would take you up on that offer, but he was able to learn. He just wasn't able to hear. So my prayer journal became a tear-stained prayer journal because I really didn't want to homeschool.
Yeah, no, I get that. Okay, so wrapping up, your kid, obviously, he's in his 30s now, right?
33 and 34 this year.
Yeah, and so they turned out good by you homeschooling them for their entire school career.
They turned out great.
That's so awesome.
They turned out great. My son taught himself Norwegian. He married a Norwegian, just got her into the States here, and he loves doing the Renaissance Festival, so he goes around the country doing the Ren fairs. Both of my children are entrepreneurs, you'll be happy to hear.
That's awesome. And yes, I am happy to hear that. And I love that, Vera, you helped to install the entrepreneurial spirit back into your kids by being, I think homeschooling is very entrepreneurial. It really is. You're having to solve problems. You're having to chart the way. Maybe the way isn't already figured out for you. You got to chop down with that machete all of those weeds that are in front of you and chart a path for you and your children. Man, that's exciting. I love it when I get to hear that homeschool kids, and again, there's thousands of stories of homeschool kids who have become very well-rounded, very successful, and are following after their dream and what they were bent for, what they were made for, versus a system that's trying to make everyone a cookie cutter, and no one is a cookie cutter. All right, well, that's it for us today. Thanks so much for joining us. By the way, something you can add to your homeschool curriculum, First Steps to Wealth. We'd love to give you a free copy of it. If you go to DaniJohnson.com, you can download an ebook of the original book yourself right now for free. Or if you would like, you want a physical copy, you can call our office right now, 760 866-760-8255. Again, that's 866-760-8255. Get your free copy. You handle the shipping to get it to your house. We'll be happy to pay for the $15 book for you. But add that one to your homeschool curriculum or just to your life. You and the kids learn how to succeed financially, in business and career, and in your relationships. Have a great day. God bless.
This has been The Dani Johnson Show. If this episode was an encouragement to you, go to DaniJohnson.com and share it with your friends now. You never know who else needs to hear it.
Hi, welcome to the Dani Johnson YouTube channel. We're super excited to have you here. And every single week, we're gonna make sure that you get awesome videos for your business, career, making more money, saving money, annihilating your debt, as well as helping you to handle those really tough problems that you have with people at home, as well as at work, and taking those really good relationships you already have and causing them to flourish and grow. All you have to do is click that subscribe button right down here. Click that and you'll be subscribed to an amazing community of people, as well as some great videos that will help to improve your life. Thanks so much for being here. Subscribe now would be good. Just click it. I know you can see it. It's somewhere down here. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.